845, varsity man up. It's game time, everybody stand up from my town.
Justin Rodriguez here with my co-host Kevin Gleason with another edition of the Varsity 845 Football Podcast. We have a great show lined up for you. Of course, we start with looking at some games from last week. We'll move ahead to this week's big games, and we have, once again, some special guests. This week, we have from Minisink Valley, Coach Kevin Gallagher, running back Deontay Moore, and offensive lineman Patsy Murata, who have helped Minisink Valley off to 2-0 start with wins over Port Jervis and Pine Bush, and that would be convincing wins. So, Kevin, we're going to look back at last week, and of course, the game that we have to start off with, the Miracle at Middletown. Middletown 36, Port Jervis 33. Middletown was down 19 points with 5 and change left. They come back to win on a halfback option.
That's unbelievable. I mean, it's one thing winning a game like that, but I was thinking a lot over the weekend about just how badly Port must have felt. I mean, allowing that to happen. The Middletown, the one kid who you quoted, the Gillespie kid, said how he was speechless, and I can imagine some of the Port kids were too. I mean, you talk about a crushing loss. I mean, every bit as exciting as that win was for Middletown, had to be just such a heartbreaking loss for Port. I really feel for them.
Well, I talked to Matt Polanis earlier this week, and I have to say, here are the positives, because Matt and I did discuss this. He said, and I agreed with him, I said, hey, for 3.5 quarters, Port thoroughly outplayed Middletown. They beat them up pretty good. I think that's a positive. And, the other thing is, hey, they still have their league games. We've been talking about Class A, Division II with Goshen, New Paltz, and Saugerties. Having seen Port play, I really liked what they did. I think that's their division. I think they will win that. And I even talked to a coach this week. I think this is pushing it. They think they can play with Cornwall. But for a coach that I respect to say that in Section 9. So I agree with you. Tough, heartbreaking loss. And they're hosting Walk Hill this week. And I talked to Rory Boyce. Rory Boyce isn't expecting Port Jervis to just, go away.
Yeah, that should be a terrific game, and Walk Hill, is coming off a real tough couple of games itself. The thing that I thought about and how good Port must be, because Middletown played right there with a Washingtonville team that they very easily could have beaten, and they didn't because the Washingtonville kicker is so good. And so they come back. Washingtonville's really good, so Middies must be pretty good. They come back, and then Port is just handing it to them for three, like you said, 3.5 quarters. So that tells me that Port's a pretty solid team, and obviously it's going to be right there in that division.
They are. There was they had a great game plan, and there's been I haven't given up on Port by any means, and I don't think you have. And again, they haven't played a league game, so I do think they'll be all right. And like I said, they've really improved. So I have to give Coach Polanis and his staff a lot of credit. Middletown will play Valley Central this week, and like we said, Port meets Walk Hill. Speaking of both of those teams, Valley Central 28, Walk Hill 27. In overtime, the gambler, Rory Boyce, goes for the 2-point conversion. That's a non-league game, and the kicking game is always can be a question mark in high school. So Rory definitely. He knows certainly more about X's and O's than I do. We'll definitely give him that, and it made for an exciting finish. Kudos to Rory Boyce. The other big game last week, Minisink 42, Pine Bush 21. There were two things we gather from that game. One is Minisink is for real, and Pine Bush at 0-2, who had some high hopes.
They're struggling.
So
they're struggling. Pine Bush might be in a little bit of trouble here. They, if they don't right the ship, 0-2, and that thing turns into 0-3 or 0-4. Kids have a tendency to go south if their expectations are high, and you lose the first 3 or 4. You have to do a heck of a coaching job to keep them there. Valley Central's turned into a tremendous team here. You talk about 2 gut check wins. They know how to win close ones, that's for sure. And I really, really like Walk Hill. I have no problem with Boyce. I love the fact that Boyce went for 2, and they easily could have won that game. And they're going to be really good. They're already good. They're going to be really good, Walk Hill. And I just don't know if we're ready to put anybody in the same category as Cornwall for what they've done in the first 2 games.
Blew out Cardinal Hayes last week. And going back to Walk Hill, I think they have one of the best wide receivers. I know they have one of the best wide receivers, maybe the best in Nick Gomez. A sleeper wide receiver, sorry to go off track, would be Brandon Sadlier from Chester, who's having a big year, and we'll talk about Chester at some point. Other big games, Washingtonville, they beat Kingston 42-25, so Washingtonville's 2-0. Kingston only scored, I believe, 3 points, or was a touchdown in their first week against Roosevelt, so their offense got going. Sophomore quarterback Alec Beesmer, 277 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'll be writing about him this week. So Kingston, that offense might be coming along. I think they're a work in progress. They host Warwick this week. I'd imagine they can give Warwick some trouble. Warwick beats Goshen 32-0 in the Spirit Trophy game. That's 10 straight for Warwick. Goshen, what do you think of Goshen? They lost to Burke 29-7, Warwick 32-0. Are Gus Lawson's Gladiators in trouble? Of course, Gus doesn't coach the team. Just if I speak about Goshen, I gotta give Gus a plug.
Can't mention Goshen without
He's
Gus.
a gentleman. That's a gentleman. That's a class act.
No, Ed Killenberger and the staff, they have a big challenge, I think, getting that team in the winning column, because from all appearances, they're really struggling, and I don't know. It's gonna be a tough road ahead for them, I think.
Also, Monroe loses to Stepanak 28-10. Anytime Monroe loses handily, you're surprised, but the Stepanak has the Division I quarterback, some 1AA recruits. I'm certainly not worried about Monroe losing to Stepanak 28-10. And again, Bernie Conley, I think he'd rather lose to Stepanak. I know he hates losing, but then probably blow someone out 56-6. So
I'm sure he wasn't thrilled about losing to his alma mater, but or the teammate coach, or both. I know he coached him before. He was also his alma mater, and no, I'm sure he was rather disappointed with that. But yeah, like you say, it's a non-league game. It's a good experience for them.
And then Newburgh beats Holy Cross on 34-33. That was the team Monroe whitewashed the week before. Without Anthony DeBose, suspended 2 games, he'll be back. And then the day before, they suspended running back Notori Dennis for conduct detrimental to the team. So he's out. DeBose is coming back for Washingtonville this week. It's I think they'll now have some stability. But Aaron Forbes rushes for over 200 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, catches a touchdown pass. You want to talk about in the backfield, thunder and lightning. You have your thunder guy, who's the big guy, and lightning, the fast guy. This kid, Aaron Forbes, he is thunder and lightning. That's right, thunder and lightning, Aaron Forbes.
Who needs a tandem for that moniker?
Yeah, just you've seen him play.
No, he's terrific. He is, and I'm just wondering what's going on with Newburgh. A couple of disciplinary issues. And I know Coach Bianco's he's a disciplinarian, which is absolutely what you need to be in this day and age. I think you have to hold these kids accountable, whether it's Newburgh or Monroe or Minnesink or Chester. It doesn't matter where you are. You have to hold these kids accountable, and it sounds like he's doing that. You just hope that it's not to a little bit of an epidemic where kids are acting up here in mass.
I think they might have a little bit of a problem there. I still think, with 3 running backs, there's only one football. I don't care what level you're at. They're going to be some issues. I don't think there's any problems there, but they do need to get it together, because they have Monroe next Saturday. So Washingtonville's coming to prove something. If I'm Newburgh, I want to just smoke Washingtonville, send a message.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm not saying that will happen, because Washingtonville is not going to go away easy, but Newburgh, they got DeBose and Forbes back, and I think they need to send a message on Friday and say, hey, listen, we're here, because you know what, if they don't get it together, Monroe, like I said, Newburgh, my preseason number 1. Subsequently, I put Monroe at number 1 in the rankings, but if they don't have their act together against Monroe, it could be tough. And I do think they match up against Monroe well.
I can't think of Newburgh-Monroe without thinking of the section final last year, and Newburgh, to me, just absolutely had that game won, and I still can't believe they actually lost that game.
I agree, but don't forget, earlier in the season, week 2 or week 3, Monroe blew them sky high out of Central Valley.
Right.
Forbes had 2 big games. He went for right around 200 yards. And quite frankly, I don't know if anyone has an answer for him. If anyone does. Monroe does. And we'll talk about some of the upcoming games this week, but first we're going to bring in our guests from Menacing Valley. We have Kevin Gallagher, coach, of course, longtime coach, Patsy Murata, and Deontay Moore. So we'll come back with them. Okay, Justin Rodriguez here with Kevin Gleason, back with the Varsity 845 football podcast with our guests from Menacing Valley, a contingent, if you will. We have running back Deontay Moore, offensive lineman Patsy Murata, and coach Kevin Gallagher. Guys, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So Deontay, a 2-0 start. Last year you guys had a rough year, but obviously you had a lot of injuries, but 2-0, 2 big wins, a great win over a Port Jervis team who I saw last week, and I was impressed in the Middletown game, even though they lost. And obviously, Pine Bush has an idea that they're going to be a AA contender. So how do you feel so far, Deontay?
It feels good. Team's really looking good. Chemistry's great. Growing out there and just playing well.
Okay. So obviously you and Joe have done a wonderful job through 2 weeks, but of course we all know sitting around here that without the offensive line, you guys couldn't get that done. So for you, Patsy, what's been the key? Because you guys, from what I understand, have been doing some good work up there.
Well, in practice, all we do is work our assignments and just doing really good with the double teams, getting to the second level, just opens everybody up for big plays.
Patsy, one thing I was talking to Coach Gallagher beforehand, and he was mentioning how you guys seem to be a really smart team, really well in tuned with things that are happening before play, pre-play, at the line of scrimmage. Tell me a little bit about what goes into that. Is that just constant repetition? Do you guys meet a lot and talk about that in terms of just being able to figure things out at the line of scrimmage? Because that's not that's kind of rare in a high school team, being able to do stuff like that at the line.
Well, a lot of us are watching film every day after practice, then coming in with questions the next day. And then even in the games, if we're not on defense, coach has drawn up on the board and we're going over what we just saw, what we're going to do about it, and how it's going to help us out in the next series.
Wow. I mean, now I would think coming off of last year's, that's something that you guys talked a lot about, just this being a different kind of season in terms of doing things differently. I mean, is that one of the things that you guys talked about in terms of having to really figure out the whole element of X's and O's and to a better degree than last year? Was that?
Yeah, definitely. We just always on film, drawing everything up, and it just helps out a lot better. It's unbelievable how much it's helped us out.
How's it been running behind those guys, Deontay?
It's great.
A lot of holes, a lot of openings?
A lot of holes. Always open them up pretty nice.
Yeah, not bad, huh?
Yeah.
What I know a lot of times in the NFL, some presents will be given to their offensive linemen. I know we're on a smaller scale here. What did you get him at McDonald's today before you came in here?
I didn't really quite get him into McDonald's yet, but I guess I'll have to stop there after.
Yeah, something like that. Wendy's, Taco Bell, maybe.
You got to find the disc. They have the dollar burgers at McDonald's, so you might be able to hook them up that way.
You'll graduate to a diner or something like that. But also, Joe Sessa joined the team. Obviously, he wanted to play last year. He had his injury, and obviously we know about his lacrosse. The legend of him on the lacrosse field. What has he brought to the team? And obviously, Joe is a very humble guy from what I understand. So just tell me what's Joe's meant to the team and your combo in the backfield.
Joe's he's a big part of the team. He's one of the captains, a good leader, brings a lot of speed to the offense. He's a pretty big threat for our offense.
Okay, we're going to bring Coach Gallagher in. He's having trouble talking. He's come down with some. He's day to day. He might not be there for Friday's game, Monroe. So he's day to day. We'll get you back. We'll update you on Twitter about that. But Coach, just tell me, for you, last year you had a good team. It just, like I said, with the injuries, you guys were just. I don't think I've ever seen a high school team hit so hard, and it wasn't. It was quality. Everyone was a quality player. How happy are you, just with obviously 2 games into it, just the 2-0 start?
Well, I'm very happy so far. Last year was a nightmare, really. I never saw anything like it either. But the guys we had a great off season, and so far so good. They work hard. They like football. They like each other. So it's a good group.
Did you sense, Coach, that this was going to be something that maybe was vastly different than last year? In terms of just guys being ready to play and having the discipline and the dedication.
Yeah, we talked. basically, as soon as the season got over last year, you could see that these guys wanted something different and more. So we had a great off season in the winter in the weight room, and it led right through the spring and through the summer and up until now. And not only do they work hard, but they, as you said, they're smart football players. So we could do a lot more because they're so in tune with it.
Mm-hmm. I also think too, you won 3 of 4 to end last season, I believe, and I think you started bringing those players back, and you know we saw what the team had potential wise. So big test for you. Friday you'll be hosting Monroe Woodbury, defending Section 9 Class AA champs. Went to the state championship game. Predictions? Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Just tell me for you guys though. Just it's a nice test. You know, everyone wants to play Monroe. And 2 years ago, you beat them. I remember you beat them at Monroe when you made the Class AA semifinals. And then obviously last year they had a pretty good win over you guys. But just tell me what are you expecting from Monroe, Deontay?
So it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a grind, but I'm pretty sure we can pick. I'm positive we can pull off the victory. And
for you, obviously this is, you want to play the best teams, and this is going to tell you, even further where you are. You've been very impressive so far. How do you feel about getting Monroe?
Good. We've been watching their line and working on our assignments on defense. I think we got it. Just practice more and more.
How do you guys view Monroe? Like, is it a little different around school? Is there a little bit more of a buzz? I mean, do you hear more people talking about it? It seems like Monroe Woodbury has this kind of aura around them because they're always in the state tournament. It seems like they're perennial Section 9 champions. Is there any of that, or you guys kind of try to diminish that a little bit, not try to make them bigger than what they are?
Well, we know they're a good football team, so we just know we got to work harder, more reps, practice in the weight room. Just know we're gonna have to get after it on Friday as hard as we can.
When you're looking at Monroe, what is the one thing that jumps out at you? Like Patsy, what you see Monroe Woodbury, what's the first thing you think of?
They have a pretty good, decent backfield. So it's gonna be a little bit tougher on defense than it has been, but
quarterback.
Yeah, yes.
Do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. How about you, Deontay? You think of Monroe Woodbury? What jumps out at you?
The coaching. They're pretty good coaches and a pretty good team. The coaching does a lot better even if your team isn't so well. Coaching, you turn it around.
How much of a season-defining win could this be if you guys win a game like this? I mean, how far can a win like this take you? Have you thought much about that, about your confidence level and what a win over a team like that could do for the program?
It'd definitely be a statement around the section, so that's always good to have.
Talking about a state caliber team.
Possibly. You never know.
Right. Sounds like you guys aren't making too much of them. I mean, in terms of you're not making them bigger than what they are.
No, not really. I definitely think we're just as good as them. It's not better.
Mm-hmm. Real quick before we wrap up, you obviously after Monroe you'll get into the meat of your schedule as far as divisional games. You'll be at Valley Central. That division also has Warwick and Roosevelt, and it's going to be a very competitive. It's going to be a tough division. Washingtonville, of course. How excited are you about that division?
We're excited. We're not going to go out overconfident or anything or overlook anybody. We're just going to play hard every game, play every game like it's our last, basically. Yeah,
and for you, Patsy, like I said, it's going to be a real fun division, and anything goes. Obviously, I know you guys are confident, but I know Washingtonville is, VC, Warwick, and Roosevelt's playing well. So how do you feel about just moving forward and playing in that division?
It'll be good to have coming off these 3 games, however we feel, and then everything will be week to week on how everyone else is doing.
Sounds like it's as balanced a division it's been in a while, right? I mean, really.
Coach would probably be best to speak to that, but that's how I feel. I really think Washingtonville was the favorite. I think after last year, maybe some people questioned Minisink. Obviously, there are no more questions. I think Roosevelt has really surprised people with 2 good wins. And I think Warwick's even a little better than what people were talking at Camp of Champions. So, Coach, what do you think?
Yeah, there's no question. Warwick is always going to be, they're always going to be good. And Washingtonville has a good, solid program, and Valley Central is, they can play with anybody. So I think this is definitely the best and deepest our conference has been in a while. if not maybe even ever, since it went into the AA split division like it is.
Coach, I should have asked you really about Monroe Woodbury. I mean, what are some of the themes that you're trying to impart on your team this week? You know, get ready for a game of that magnitude, a program of that magnitude. I mean, is there a theme? Is there a certain message that you want to get across to them?
Well, I think, do the little things right. Deontay said they're well coached, and they are. So we have to do the little things right too. And if we come to practice and do the little things right, then we always talk about do the little things right and make the big things work. So we just have to stay focused and continue to work on those things, and then make it all come together, on Friday.
Okay, guys. Well, I'll see you on Friday. I'll be at the game. I can't wait, and I wish you the best of luck. We wish you the best of luck. The same to Monroe, and we appreciate you guys coming in. Okay, Kevin. Yeah, it was great having the Minisink Valley contingent in. We really appreciate it. We had some great guests last week from Warwick and Middletown. Chris Houston from Middletown and Dermot Egan, and we'll have some guests next week. So Minisink Valley, obviously the topic is they're hosting Monroe Friday, 7 o'clock. The Varsity 845 game of the week. It's a big game when J-Rod's prowling the sidelines.
Yeah, that's right.
Notebook in hand, so diligently reporting on the game. So just tell me, what are your expectations for that game?
I think Minisink's going to, they're not going to be embarrassed. I mean, Minisink's going to come and play hard and bring their A game and be prepared and disciplined and focused. I just think Monroe, talent-wise, has the advantage there. And I see Monroe breaking free from a close game in the first half and maybe winning by a couple touchdowns.
Well, the thing is, Monroe, I talked to free safety Brandon Lewis, who's a really nice player, and he said the Stepanak loss kind of, peeved them. They're not happy.
Yeah.
So they're going to come back pretty hard. I think the key for Minisink, Sessa and Deontay Moore in the backfield. They have to get that run game. They want to control the clock. If they don't do that, it's going to be a long day because they're not going to be able to pass. That said, you also know the wizard, Bernie Connolly, is going to come up with some kind of defensive game plan. Right now, Coach Connolly is scheming.
Yes.
And when Coach Connolly starts scheming, there's a good chance there might be a goose egg on the board.
Now, are you talking about Bernie or Mike?
Bernie.
Oh, okay.
Both of them, actually, but just
All right, want to make sure
we'll
we
get to Mike later.
We had the
Both
right
of them.
one. Okay. Good.
Bernie's scheming.
Okay, yeah.
He might even be wearing a Belichick-style hoodie, but I agree with you. I think Monroe might be I'm going to say 14 points, but I really like that offensive line. I really like Minisink's offensive line, and I'd like to see them keep it close, and I think they might. I agree with you. I think maybe in the second half, Monroe might distance themselves, but Monroe is the clear favorite in this game. Speaking of Conleys, you have a great showdown. Cornwall at Marlboro. Both are three-time defending Section 9 champs. Cornwall in A, Marlboro in B. Marlboro to the state semis 2 years in a row. Cornwall 3 years in a row. A great game. I like Cornwall in this game. Marlboro, nice job after week one. They lost that game. No shame in that to Walkhill, but they did a nice job.
Took down New Paltz.
Yep, as they should. Mm-hmm. But I still like Cornwall there. That's another team. They have an experienced offensive line. They have the quarterback. I do think Marlboro is playing better, and I just think Cornwall is going to win this game.
No disrespect at all directed at Marlboro. I have the utmost respect for that program, those kids. Tremendous all the way around. But I'd be surprised if they're in this game against Cornwall because, you're talking about a Cornwall team that just beat presumably one of the best teams in New York City by a margin, by 4 touchdowns, Cardinal Hayes. And that's after putting up a 50-pack against Amsterdam's pretty good Section 2 team up in the Albany area. So I just have a hard time believing anybody's going to really give Cornwall much of a game inside Section 9 this season.
Well, you know what? You have to talk. We talked about scheming and game planning. Marlboro, Rich Ward, he's one of the best coaches, and he's proud. I think it might be a little tighter, and we'll see what happens. The other game,
I hope it is. Hey, Rich is a tremendous football coach, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had it tighter.
Walkhill's going to give Cornwall all they can handle. So, but
we'll
save that for another day. Yeah, I do.
I mean, right now
And Cardinal Hayes,
it's a little early to tell right now about that, but I hope so there too, and that certainly could be too. I know Walk Hill's a good football team.
Port at Walk Hill. I just wanted to skim over that game again because, like I said, I'm sorry, Walk Hill at Port.
Right.
Port coming off the loss. I like Walk Hill, but I think Port's going to come out tough. I don't think they're going to be going away after the so-called Middletown Miracle.
No, we've heard a lot of things about Port here, and they like we talked a little bit about them against Middletown. And I think right now, and Matt Planis is probably thinking the same thing, and he's probably preached it to the kids all week. It's like, all right, show me now how tough you are coming off a heartbreaking loss. Show me how tough you are in showing your resilience, to come back and have a big game.
Okay. And then Middletown's at VC. I'm going to take VC in that game.
Yeah, I'm not picking against VC anymore. I've learned my lesson. I mean, they're just talk about resilience. That team is never out of it, and they obviously know how to win at the end. So I'm going to pick VC.
John Avila coming out of the backfield, making catches, really coming on. He's a player to watch. Kenny Gray was a little off last week, but we like him. I like VC. Middletown had that great game. VC with 2 good games. This could be, I'm going to be at Minnesink Monroe, but I think like ESPN might be at Middletown VC because that could be a
might make the top
game.
10 ESPN plays.
When they see Brent Musburger show up, they'll the other game too we talked about it, Washingtonville at Newburgh. I like Washingtonville. They're another team, big team. They've got some running backs. Joe Tecklenburg did a nice job under center on the ground. They've got the secret weapon in Derek Doole.
Not so secret anymore.
Obviously, let me rephrase that. Just a weapon.
Okay.
He hasn't been a secret for about 2 years, so I got to get my act together on that one. I still think Newburgh has some experience. They have really 2 beefy lines. And in the past, Washingtonville expectations and Newburgh blows them out. I just don't see that happening. I think Washingtonville's going to hang with them. I'm going to take Newburgh.
Yep.
I'm going to say Newburgh by 12.
Washingtonville's shown a lot in 2 weeks. I really think they have. And that was an eye-opener to me, what they did to Kingston, And
Kingston's a little down.
Kingston might be a little down, but you know what? That still tells me that Washingtonville's...
No disrespect to Washington.
No, that tells me Washingtonville's ready to take it to the next level.
And like I said, Don Clark with this team, he's got a lot of returners. He's done a lot in the past years with teams that have really lost a lot. So I like that team. And the other thing, too, is there's one other game. It's Red Hook, Highland at Red Hook, Saturday at 7:30. It's a Section 9 Class B Division I game. You got Marlboro and Rondout in that division. That's a team. Let's talk about Rondout, that blowout of Monticello. They squeaked by Saugerties. I actually picked Monticello in that game. Was obviously wrong. But I think that division is going to be good. And next week you have the rematch of the Class B championship. You have Marlboro and Rondout. But Highland, I think they're going to have a tough game against Red Hook, but I'm going to take Highland in that game. I like Brandon Mack at quarterback. He's been very good. So, I've said in the past few weeks, B is coming down to Burke and Marlboro. What do you know? I've messed up again. I'm not counting it. I said I wasn't counting out Highland. I'm not going to count out Rondout.
No, I definitely don't count out Rondout. Think about that Monticello game. If you read closely, if you looked at that game closely, I think that was a game for
Well, I think Rondout spotted him. Monticello spotted him like 3 touchdowns.
But I think that was a game until about 8-9 minutes left. They scored twice. I'm pretty sure Rondout did to blow that open. So Monticello, I think Monticello's a little bit of a different team this year. I think they're a little tougher minded.
Yeah.
Than last year.
Yeah, I think Hipsman's done a good job with limited resources. He's got 8 basketball players on the team. I think he recruited like half of them.
Yep. Don't forget about the smaller schools. Tri-Valley's off to 2-0 start?
2-0 start after a winless.
Exactly.
So we have to give them some credit.
You're welcome, Tri-Valley, for that plug that I threw in there for you that J-Rod forgot about.
2-0. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So that's how we're going to wrap up the show. And we appreciate you listening, as always. Next week, we're going to tell you, we're going to give you that sneak preview. It's Monroe-Newburgh. So we're going to hopefully have players from both sides, Monroe and Newburgh, coming in. So this is Justin Rodriguez for Kevin Gleason. Thank you so much again for listening to the Varsity 845 podcast.